true scary story of the terrifying neighbor. Introduction. In a quiet and ordinary neighborhood, a family named Tofigi had recently moved into an old cozy house. This house was located at the end of the street, alongside a few other houses. The neighborhood was peaceful, with no signs of any strange or unsettling events, until a new neighbor, Mr. Mansouri, moved in. He was an elderly man living alone, and from the very beginning, his odd behavior started to raise suspicions. The start of strange behaviors. In the early days when the Tofigi family first met Mr. Mansouri, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He rarely spoke and spent most of his time indoors. But soon his strange behavior began to attract attention. One night, while the Tofigi family was resting, loud banging and continuous scraping noises were heard coming from Mr. Mansouri's house. The sounds of heavy thuds against the walls and furniture being dragged across the floor were so loud that they woke the family up. These noises only occurred at night and repeated regularly. Shadows and figures. A few days later, while Mrs. Tofigi was talking to another neighbor, she learned that everyone seemed to be afraid of Mr. Mansouri. One of the neighbors mentioned that Mr. Mansouri would walk around his house at night, and strange shadows were sometimes seen moving behind the windows. The shadows appeared unusually large and unnatural, moving in a strange manner. Some neighbors even mentioned that they had seen him walking in his yard at night without any lights on, almost as if he was searching for something. Being followed by the neighbor. One night, Mrs. Tofigi went for a walk with her daughter. As they walked, they saw Mr. Mansouri standing by his window, watching them closely. He stood there silently behind the curtains, staring at them. Mrs. Tofigi felt an unsettling chill from his gaze. She tried to brush it off, but over time, she started noticing that Mr. Mansouri always seemed to be around whenever they were out. It became a growing sense of unease for the Tofigi family. Receiving strange letters. A few weeks later, Mrs. Tofigi began receiving suspicious letters from Mr. Mansouri. At first, the letters seemed harmless, just social notes, but gradually the content grew more strange and eerie. One of the letters described the Tofigi family's behavior in great detail, as if Mr. Mansouri knew everything about their daily lives. In one letter, he specifically mentioned where Mrs. Tofigi's daughter was playing in the yard, even though she had been alone there. "I saw your daughter playing outside last night. Make sure you're always with her," the letter said. This note filled Mrs. Tofigi with dread. Following the neighbors' movements. One evening, when the Tofigi family decided to observe Mr. Mansouri more closely, they saw him again, standing in the darkness of his window, watching them intently. This time, it was different. It seemed as if he was following their every move, his gaze fixed and unblinking. Mrs. Tofigi tried to dismiss it, but her gut feeling told her something was seriously wrong. The unveiling of the dark truth. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Mrs. Tofigi decided to visit Mr. Mansouri's house one night. What she discovered was horrifying. Inside, the walls were covered with photographs of her family. But the pictures weren't ordinary. They had been altered. Some were warped, others edited in ways that made her family appear ghostly or monstrous. The photos depicted disturbing versions of the Tofigi family, and it became clear that Mr. Mansouri had been watching them for far longer than they realized. The end of the nightmare. Mrs. Tofigi immediately reported the situation to the police. After a thorough search of Mr. Mansouri's house, the authorities discovered he was mentally unstable and had been secretly photographing his neighbors for years, keeping the pictures hidden in his home. He had also been leaving cryptic, unsettling notes, hinting at things only he knew. Mr. Mansouri was arrested, but no one truly knows what he intended with those pictures and letters. The Terrifying Neighbor, a true story of horror. In 2008, a woman named Lisa and her young daughter Emma moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood. It was a peaceful place with tree-lined streets and friendly neighbors. Lisa had been a single mother for several years, and after much searching, she found a modest home that she could finally afford. It seemed like the perfect place to start fresh. However, there was one thing about the neighborhood that didn't sit right with her. The elderly man who lived next door, Mr. Harrison. He was always in his yard, watching them through his window or sitting on his porch late into the night, staring into their house. Lisa tried to ignore it, chalking it up to loneliness, but his behavior soon became too unsettling to ignore. At first, it started with small things. Lisa would notice strange noises coming from Mr. Harrison's house at odd hours, scratching, tapping, and muffled voices that would echo from his windows. Sometimes she would catch glimpses of him through the cracks in his blinds, just staring out at her house. She mentioned it to a few neighbors, but no one seemed concerned. "He's just old," they said. "He's harmless." But things took a darker turn one evening in the summer of 2009. Lisa had just gotten home from work and was in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard a soft knock on the door. She opened it to find Mr. Harrison standing there, his expression cold and unblinking. In his hand, he held a small, strange package wrapped in brown paper. "Thought you might like this," he said, his voice raspy and low. Lisa, feeling uneasy, took the package from him but was too polite to refuse. "Thank you," she said, trying to smile. Mr. Harrison simply nodded, turned, and walked away without saying another word. Inside the package was a set of old tattered postcards, each one depicting various scenes of the neighborhood. They were aged with yellowed edges and faded ink. What struck Lisa as odd, however, was the fact that each postcard had been carefully annotated with creepy, cryptic messages, notes about her house, her daughter, and even her routines. Some of the messages were downright disturbing, including one that read, "I've been watching you for weeks. You're safe now, but soon you won't be." Lisa was shaken. She immediately tossed the postcards into the trash, but the unsettling feeling remained. It wasn't long before she noticed more strange things happening. Her phone would ring late at night, but when she picked it up, no one was on the other end. She would hear footsteps outside her window in the middle of the night, only to find no one there when she looked. Her daughter, Emma, began having nightmares and complaining about a man in the window watching her. Lisa thought maybe Emma's imagination was running wild, but the growing sense of dread told her otherwise. A few weeks later, Lisa decided to take matters into her own hands. She called the police after hearing loud banging noises coming from Mr. Harrison's house at 3 a.m. When the officers arrived, they found nothing out of the ordinary, but when they inspected his home, they discovered something chilling. In the basement, they found a hidden room. Inside, it was filled with photos of Lisa and her daughter, taken from different angles, through windows, and even from behind trees. There were hundreds of them, some from just feet away, as though someone had been standing in the yard, taking pictures through the windows without their knowledge. But what was even more disturbing were the small homemade dolls, each one resembling Emma, placed carefully around the room. The dolls were dressed in clothes that mirrored Emma's, some with disturbingly lifelike features, and others with dark, hollow eyes. When Mr. Harrison was confronted, he denied everything, claiming that he had no idea how the photos or dolls had gotten there. But the police, sensing the danger, took him into custody. He was later diagnosed with severe paranoia and obsessive behaviors, and was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. Though Mr. Harrison was gone, Lisa and Emma never felt safe in that house again. The terror that had come from their neighbor's actions lingered long after he was removed from the neighborhood. They couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching them, that somehow the horror wasn't over. And to this day, Lisa has never been able to look at a quiet neighbor the same way again.